I helped establish an initiative that benefited the national security of people who reside in the United States. So sometimes when you do certain things within the United States at a national level, uh, people in other nations might also be inspired and replicate that. So I was able to do that, in my view, thanks to my exposure to socioeconomic and cultural diversity. So I'm not going to go into that in this video, but I wanted to highlight that because of the different things I'm going to talk about, including conflict, right? So what is in it for you to think about conflict? What is in it for you to interact with people who have been affected by conflict or to think about very such sad situations in human history? Well, I don't know all the people that will watch this video, so I'm not giving advice. Usually at an individual level, I talk to people, but I will share different benefits that I think of that benefit me. So it's not advice, it's just what I feel benefits me, right? So if there are two humans in a room, okay, and they're around each other for hours, they're always talking, and they're doing that every day, and a year goes by. Obviously, they're going to have different perspectives. They're going to have times where they don't always understand each other, okay? So conflict is something that can never be fully automated. So with the tools we have online, so when I have time and attention, when I have spare time, what do I spend my time and attention doing? Well, there's a lot of different things that I like to do. For example, I will use the opportunity of the internet to learn Swahili, okay? And I don't claim to be perfect at it. But my friend that I practice Swahili with, she will go into the history of the language and why I can recognize certain words because there are some words that are similar to Arabic words that I have learned. So I will go and I will learn history from a variety of different perspectives. And world history is not happy all the time. And in world history, you have a lot of different characters, a lot of different people that may reappear time and time again in a certain aspect. So what do I mean by that? So um, there are all kinds of people in the world, and different people are motivated by different perspectives. I might be motivated by an ethical perspective, by a spiritual perspective to do certain things, right? But not everybody is going to be motivated the way I am motivated when I make certain decisions. So throughout human history, there were different incentives for why people decided to do certain things. So, yes, there were certain forms of human suffering that were finally ended because of ethical arguments, because of moral arguments. Uh, that was, that was a incentive for people to fight to end certain parts of human suffering, certain forms of human suffering, right? But there are certain people, there are certain characters that have appeared throughout human history that were not motivated by ethical or moral arguments. Okay. So there are certain characters in the world that have reappeared time and time again in world history who are motivated by economic or financial incentives. Okay. What's in it for them financially and economically? So, an example of this is that there was a very big form of human suffering that affected many lives. And for hundreds of years, there were people always saying, look, this is wrong, this shouldn't happen. And basically, a very uncomfortable part of history that some people don't want to hear is that there were certain individuals that were motivated to end a form of human suffering because there was a breakthrough in or a thought in economics. So, uh, so there were different ideas in economics or different perspectives in economics that have changed over time. So some things like conflict other things that have caused human suffering, right? There was an economic component attached to that. Somebody was motivated in world history to do something that was ethically wrong, but they made money from it. They had an economic incentive. They had a financial incentive. Okay? So conflict is just an example. There are other things that have led to absolutely horrible human sufferings, right? So there were certain people who were at gaining economically from different forms of human suffering. Okay? And then a breakthrough would happen in economic thought that would say, hey, actually, um, this is bad for economic reasons. And then not everyone, but there would be a few people in history who would want to end certain things that caused human suffering because someone came up with an idea that that form of human suffering was bad economically. So some people did not change their mind or change their actions that caused human suffering based on ethical arguments. Some people change their mind based on economic arguments for certain things that have caused human suffering. So I will be contributing different articles to an organization I'm part of that is with a former US diplomat who lived in the Great Depression, lived through World War II and other different wars. And he always told me when you're resolving conflict to think about culture. And I tried to re-record this video a bit, and I really don't have time to keep editing and re-recording. So I'm very sorry if this video is all over the place. But when I frame different arguments and I'm thinking about how am I going to make an impact? How am I going to, you know, persuade someone, right? I will also talk about and frame it from, is there something we can do differently that can give economic value? So I was impacted by conflicts that changed the direction of my life. And I know that there's people who made money off of that conflict. Okay. I know that there's people to this day who make money off of conflicts that create endless human suffering. I get it. What has happened in world history that has really made an impact uh, is that there have been people who have successfully persuaded others through financial and economic arguments to end different things that have caused human suffering, that have caused uh, just very sad, tragic events. So there is a way to brainstorm and think about how to persuade a variety of people that are influenced by different incentives. Uh, and the thing is, that diplomat, the former diplomat of the organization that I'm going to contribute articles to. I talked to him a few days ago and he asked me to write some articles. So I'm very busy. I'm overseeing a lot of different initiatives in over 100 countries. But basically, he was a child during the Great Depression. Okay, I've said this in more than one video. So, being a child in the Great Depression, he told me how he had to catch animals to have something to eat because he was so hungry. I mean, that's how poor he was. Okay. And he has contributed to making an impact, to making tangible results. Okay. And he would talk about that there were CEOs from the Great Depression who experienced poverty that were very resourceful and great executives, right? So imagine what's happening today. What is happening today? There are different barriers that if somebody like that was around today and had the potential to contribute to our international security, to help make a difference to end human suffering, to help perhaps contribute a thought about how can we persuade people with different incentives, including economic incentives. That kind of person today, would he be allowed in the different rooms where there are decisions being made? Would he be allowed? He was extremely poor, right? And I say that because when I helped uh, do an initiative that contributed to adding some value to the national security of the United States, I was on the welfare system, okay? I was not rich. And I also was exposed to a lot of different cultures. So the reality is, the way things work is that we have innovated when we have been exposed to different perspectives. So today, in some events that influence geopolitics, right, there are certain barriers where somebody like this amazing person who was a former diplomat, him being a kid in the Great Depression, him being extremely poor, are we seeing different barriers today where somebody from that background may not be able to contribute to very important you know, decisions to add invaluable perspective. So he did a lot of things, not only in diplomacy, but also in the US military. So he also gave me an opportunity. He paved the way for me because he knew what it was like to be extremely poor, to be affected by conflict. And so while I experienced people who sometimes had a deficit lens because they weren't exposed to others affected by conflict. They may just automatically put different labels on me. They might automatically assume like the worst of me. I got used to that, and he was the opposite. He lived through the real thing. He didn't just read books about it. So he knew and saw the potential in me, and he included me, and his events were free. So thanks to his inclusion, later on, I helped contribute to a national security initiative. I actually initiated something very big that benefited the national security of the United States. So this is why I will sometimes, when I'm answering questions, I will sometimes tell people that when you're framing certain arguments, when you're trying to promote things like whether it's world peace or something to end human suffering, think about the fact that there are a lot of people who are driven by different incentives. And world history has shown sometimes different characters who are motivated by different incentives reappear again and again. So if we had breakthroughs in economics that made certain forms of human suffering um, become illegal and other things, we can have breakthroughs again. We've did it before, we can do it again. But we have to think about uh, the different spaces where different decisions are made. Okay. So, uh, from my background that is very outdated, where I studied a bit of, well, I did different things related to security of computers. Okay, so when I would read the cybersecurity frameworks, I got an idea from reading the different frameworks. I inferred that perhaps um, one layer out of many, many layers to promote world peace and to put more sustainable systems in place to prevent one evil person from taking over the world could include having sort of a system of checks and balances internationally. So what do I mean by that? So economics and conflict have a relationship. There are different articles online about that topic. And of course, different articles will say different things. But the point is, you have the opportunity today with the internet to look up a lot of different things. And of course, not everything on the internet is correct. But the fact that we have the internet today, I have the opportunity to look up articles online. I don't have to go physically to a library. I use Now with the internet, I can just look up articles online. So there's articles about how economics and conflict have a relationship. So if more than one nation in more than one hemisphere is economically strong, is powerful, right? Then in a way, an idea I had is that there could be checks and balances internationally to prevent one evil person from taking over the world, right? So of course, that is not the only thing that's needed for promoting peace, right? It's just one drop in an ocean or one layer out of many to perhaps promote peace, right? So economic development, uh, perhaps it's an idea uh, that that I have inferred from reading different things, including reading the different cybersecurity frameworks, right? Um, so yeah, I also so when I frame different arguments, I would talk about what's in it for certain people that I'm talking to. If there are certain causes that I care about, where I've consistently heard people make ethical arguments, hey, we need to do this because it's morally right. And if I see that the outcome is that there's still people suffering, what I will do is, okay, the ethical argument is still out there, right? So the people motivated by ethical incentives, they can see that argument. But what I will ponder about discussing uh, is addressing certain individuals who have different incentives. So I discussed years ago in front of the Singaporean government, and I talked about the history of Singapore. So I've been asked different questions about Singapore. Singapore is very diverse and multicultural, and they're very proud of themselves being multicultural and diverse. So I would frame arguments from also potential economic incentives, right? How does it benefit a person economically? And that's what I would do. So with conflict, if there are so many breakthroughs that have happened, so many inventions that have happened, eventually it is possible to find someone who is going to be maybe, who is going to think of different economic incentives to advocate for different things that could end human suffering. So being that I was affected by conflict, I know that somebody made money off of the conflict that impacted my life. I'm aware of that. I know that there are people influenced by ethical arguments, but I know throughout human history, there are going to be people time and time again who are going to keep doing the same things because they get a financial or economic incentive, even if it's ethically or morally wrong. So one layer out of many layers that I think about in promoting international security and peace is brainstorming with different friends of mine about coming up with different economic arguments so that a person who is not motivated by ethical arguments, which we have characters like that throughout history, will at least refrain from investing in something that causes extreme human suffering, or they will, if anything, have an economic incentive for peace. Okay. So this part is going to be kind of uncomfortable for some people. And actually I'm usually used to talking about this in groups online, but there are certain things that have happened in human history that cause endless suffering, extreme suffering. And literally, someone in economics would come up with an idea that, hey, actually, this thing, this thing that causes human suffering. This is actually bad economically, bad financially. And that idea that came, that wasn't originally there, someone had to come up with it, someone had to invent it. That idea then persuaded people who, again, they were not persuaded by ethical arguments, but persuaded by other incentives. Okay. So there is a way that we can do that as a human race to come up with breakthroughs that will incentivize all kinds of people to do the right thing, even if they are not motivated ethically to do the right thing.